dadurch wurde halt das Bild gewechselt und das ist anders.
Wenn jemand vorne redet, auf den Stream.
Genau, dann sieht man ja auch, dass der Pegel ausschlägt, das ist hier von diesem. Oder? Ja, das ist hier von den Mikros. Das war noch. Das hier muss im Prinzip aus. Sekunde.
Und ansonsten wieder auf Thumbnail zurück, oder was?
Nee, warte. Hallo, hallo?
Hier ist denn
Hallo, hallo, hallo?
Laptop-Mikro.
Nein, das ist nicht das Laptop. Bing, 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 bing. Ja. Nee, hier. Okay. Ich kann das ja auch muten. Geht das immer wieder an?
Ihr könnt es schaffen.
Mute. So, ich will Go, go, go. So, welcome everybody. Unfortunately, only Tadeusz and I are here in front of you. And as I heard, we are also having some only English-speaking people here. Is this true? Sure. So therefore, the meetup will be in English. I hope this is okay for everybody. Who does not understand English? Oh, okay. One of the speakers, one of the speakers does not understand English. So anyway, we are still waiting for our third organizer, Christine. She's on her way here. Maybe we can see her later. And therefore, Tadeusz and I will be here. And as you may be aware, this is the very first DevOps Saxony meetup. We combined this with the Kubernetes Cloud Native and Dresden OpenSource UserGroup because we want to have some new members. Yeah, and I'm greedy, and I don't want to host a group that only has 10 members, and now in a week we get to nearly 50, which is perfectly fine for me. So my name is Daniel. I'm working at Wandelbots as a DevOps engineer. I was formerly employed for our host, the Proficom GmbH. Which is also doing a lot of DevOps stuff. Maybe Michael can join us in a second and introduce what is going on here. But first, I also want to hand over to Tadeusz, who is from Elevate. But please introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Tadeusz. I'm from Elevate. Formerly, I was a machine learning engineer, and now I'm product manager. That doesn't really have to do a lot with DevOps, but I'm kind of the user perspective of that. So I thought DevOps is something I need as an engineer, or MLOps in my case. So I have some big interest in a group where knowledge is shared about that, and I thought it's a good idea to help organize that.
So now Christine joined us, and please introduce herself. Please join us here in front.
Where do I have to look or speak? What is it?
Just
Okay, I keep it here. Yeah, hi.
Please come a little bit here, so
Yeah.
the street.
So, yeah, hi. My name is Christine. I'm from the Size Digital Innovation. I see I have to go here.
It's fine.
Okay. I'm there the team lead for community relations, so we do a lot of organizing of user groups and supporting them. Yeah, and we spoke about at our last Agile meetup that our colleagues are also a lot of DevOps colleagues and system engineers and so on, and that there's no good meetup or user group where we could connect. And so, yeah, we joined all together in one group and are happy that you are all here. So, welcome.
Welcome. So now we are also having a host. He's providing us with snacks, meaning pizza, something to drink, mostly soft drinks, a little bit of space where we can have our talk without getting wet from the rain, and also Wi-Fi, which is pretty important. So, Michael, do you want to say something about the Proficom?
Do I need to push the button or no? Okay. Okay. So hi everybody, warm welcome from my side. My name is Michael Lötsch. I'm working for Proficom more than 10 years, and yeah, we are also in the DevOps sector. Formerly, we was founded by doing some test automation. Yeah, the first 3 years manual tests, and yeah, after some years ago. We're doing a lot of infrastructure, IT automation stuff, and I think it was 5 years ago, and Daniel joined us, and there was an DevOps initiative in our company. So we do a lot of training for our consultants, and then in that way, yeah, we decided to push this through our entire company, and for that reason, we are a DevOps company. So some things changed, something doesn't change, but from my way, it sounds cool, and we introduced lots of methodologies, and I think we are on a good way, and for that reason I'm proud to host this meeting here today, and I hope we have some interesting talks. Daniel will present us a very good and impressive presentation regarding GitOps and etc. And yeah, I would like to hand over to Daniel and talk about the agenda or what's next. Thank you.
Yeah, so to avoid some confusion, yes, the two speakers that are doing a talk today, both are named Daniel. One is me, one is the other Daniel. And after a short break, we will go with Daniel, who will take care of the first talk.
Can you hear me? I hope so. All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm pretty nervous to do the first talk, actually. Expected to be the second one. But yeah, what's my topic today? Introduction to GitOps, or how I call it, deployments. It just magically happens. Who am I? Yet another Daniel. Yeah, we heard about, okay, we have two Daniels today, one is me. I'm big fan of continuous testing and continuous delivery, and in that case, big fan of DevOps and all the DevOps culture that is coming with it. I also always like learning new stuff. This picture here is from my last vacation to Japan, where I went to learn a little bit of Japanese. So. A little bit getting out of my comfort zone, but let's get started. And let's pretend we have an awesome website. The link is down below. Awesome site staging. This is our awesome website. Like I said, please just pretend this one is awesome. And we want to change something. We have this big please implement me button here, and we want to change this and get this done and here and get this stuff away. So yeah, we want to add a new feature. We want to get time based by time zone. I have my trusted IDE here. Here's code, and I already pulled up my code that is a little Go server. The function get time and time zone. We want to change this from should return please implement me to something different, especially the time in Berlin, and we have to import time. Okay, this one. Let's check if it works. Go run server. Here. Open. Come on. Open it. Where is it? It's not opening. Okay. It's yeah, it's on localhost 8081. And yeah, we see here we have something new. We have our time here. Our current time is 16th of May. 18 or 6 p.m. roughly, and that thing we want to push and want to commit to our new to our staging environment. So we do a git add, git commit, and we push it. Yay! All right. So we now pushed our new version of the application, and we hope it works. But how do we do our config management? So how will it be deployed and everything? We also put it in Git. And basically what we do is we have everything in Git. And that's the main reason we do GitOps. What is GitOps and what's all the fuss about? GitOps is an idea to say everything we want to have in our application. Is it the application itself, the build management and stuff, which we already know, which we already do. We do with Agile, we do with DevOps, we build, we publish everything as code. But most of the time our infrastructure or deployments are not in a versioning system, often not in code and something like that. And GitOps is trying to tackle this topic. And it states, okay, for GitOps we need to have an open, the golden source of truth is always our source code management system and our Git in this case. And this is not just our configuration, so not just environment variables and stuff, but also the version that is currently deployed. And the version should not be tag latest. So we need to have a pinned version, and this one has to be automatically updated, automatically rolled out in our environment, and so on. With the pure goal, everyone should be able to clone my repository and just run it. Build it and have the same application state as I am in my production or in my staging environment, something like that. Changes for my infrastructure and changes for my configuration are also just one Git commit away. So we just change our configuration files. We just change our version and everything should be fine. How to do GitOps? GitOps is an idea that sprung into life mostly because of Kubernetes and because of the whole cloud infrastructure topic. Fueled, of course, by ideas to run from the CLI with package managers like Helm, with infrastructure management tools like Ansible, like Terraform, and so on. And so there are other infrastructures possible, and you should or you have to watch or look which GitOps way you want to do. And there are two ways to do GitOps currently. This one is configuration by push and configuration by pull. Configuration by push is what you see in most cases. So you can use every configuration system, every tool, every CLI tool we are talking about. So from kubectl to Terraform, Ansible, Helm, Customize, and so on. And this push systems mirror the deployment of the infrastructure as done by a developer. So a developer would go into his command line, just send 3 to 4 commands, and then the system should be running. Major disadvantage for this one is you have a fire and forget, or basically have a fire and forget rollout. So you roll out, but you don't have anything simple to monitor your application. Is your application drifting away from your configuration? Has someone just configured something directly in Kubernetes and so on? So it's basically running it, sending it out, sending it to Kubernetes or to my infrastructure, and then it's done. And the other point is our CI server needs to have infrastructure or needs to have the system credentials for our Kubernetes, and we are leaving our Kubernetes trusted space basically with pushing it to here. The major advantage for this one is it's easy to set up. You don't have to do anything. You have to have a CI server that knows the credentials, has a kubeconfig, and that's all. The other way to do this, and that's how I did it here, And my demo is GitOps by configuration pool. So what's done here is that inside of Kubernetes live the GitOps controller, basically, that pulls the manifest repositories in Git and checks for changes in it. Tools that are on the market for here are, the most name is Argo CD. It's currently the one everyone talks about and everyone you hear about. Other tools, if you don't want to have Argo CD, is Flux, for instance. And what I used here is GitLab GitOps controller. It's the built-in GitOps controller from GitLab. And this way of doing GitOps enforces a declarative, immutable description of my system. So we need to have some descriptive files and not just running 5 lines of kubectl commands. Instead of, we have to have these manifest files that live in Git and mirror our application, describe our application, and then can be applied to it. What we can do here is basically on the other side here, server to create my my new release, and the GitLab CI file to automate those things, so pushing it to my registry. Nothing here.
Fine.
Okay.
Let's continue.
So, okay, sorry for the technical inconvenience. Let's go back. Yeah, like I said, nothing in the application repository states anything about deploying it to Kubernetes. I could do or could run it on a standalone Docker host, could run it locally, whatever. And what the pipeline or the GitOps, like GitLab job in its application repository does, it triggers a downstream job in my manifest repository with the new version or the new image in my registry, and then this manifest repository where the configuration lives just updates it in Git, pushes it to itself, and then applies it to the GitLab agent, or the GitLab agent is the manifests, watches for changes, put the new configuration of this manifest, and rolls it out into our Kubernetes cluster. So yeah, the changes here are done. I hope it's readable. Otherwise, the code is on the GitLab. It's on a repository publicly available. So if you want to check it out, you can do it afterwards. So yeah, the changes are done by a special CI job. It's named here image update, and it's basically a customized configuration change, where the customized changes our environment variables to have the information of which version was it, which git commit was it inside of the container, and it changes our container image. And then the changes are applied via customized to our manifests in here. It will be published or committed by commit message process packages with some commit ID, and then the new version is basically in Git. So while I talked, let's see if our awesome website changed. Oh yeah, it has. So we see here now this one is the old version. So we see please implement me, and without doing anything, I just changed my code. I just updated my application. I have a new current Git version, and I have the new application version with the time now available. So, conclusions. Yeah, what can we learn about or learn from this, or what I wanted to talk about today? GitOps is not about any tool or something like that. It's a process in which the desired state of my application is stored in some kind of source code management system. Could be Git, could be any other source code management system. There are two major ways to implement this idea: push pipelines and pull pipelines. Whichever matches better to your solution and to your system, you should do this. Push pipelines are easier to set up. You can basically do it just in your CI implementation. Pull pipelines, you have to get a specific controller into your Kubernetes cluster. Argo and Flux are just a Helm install away, so you can do this by even by Helm. Yeah, and all tools we talk about when we talk about deployment in Kubernetes, we can use all those tools to manage, change our manifests in the CLI to get this desired state, to get some kind of manifest files, and then push it into our production, or in my case, a staging environment. All right, I hope I'm in time. Oh, looks fine. So, thank you for your attention, and yeah, feel free to connect. See my email, my website, where you can also find my social network account, so LinkedIn, my GitHub account, and so on GitHub I push everything that is everything like this talk, and I do more or less a little bit with together with Proficom. On my GitLab account or on my own GitLab server, I publish everything that I do on my own, like this stuff you have seen now. All right, any questions? Yes.
All right. you are using the full configuration, for example, Argo CD, and the developer makes some changes to kubectl, for example, does the controller tries to override that change, or will it?
The controller always tries to override it, yeah.
You need to repeat the question.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Oh, okay. The question for chat was if we have this controller, so if we have a system with, for instance, Argo CD controller, and a user changes the configuration by kubectl or Helm with the Argo CD controller, roll it back. Yes. The GitOps controller always tries to get back to the desired state, because the idea is the desired state is in Git. If you change anything outside of Git, the controller will roll it back without asking.
So that then in case, for example, you are debugging something, or so you have to kind of pause the controller, or so that doesn't override the changes. Either
you could debug it either on your local side or local environment, whatever, or you have to pause the controller to change it. But pausing the controller, for instance, for production environments I wouldn't recommend it. So for the lower testing, for staging environment, development environment, yes. But for production, I wouldn't pause it just for stability reasons. Yeah. Any other questions?
Robert, if you have more than one environment, how do you deploy that or implement the whole?
Okay, the question was if you have more than one environment, how do you implement?
I mean, target environment, where you deploy the application.
So let me just repeat. And okay, the question was if we have more than one environment, how do we deploy it? So if we have a staging and a production, for instance, or development, staging, and production. I haven't set this up, but there are two ways. One way is all configurations in one repository. So you could have everything in this manifest repository, and just by the name of the manifest files. So one is staging, one is production, and so on. You configure your controller to look at specific folders. So for the staging controller, you say, okay, look at the staging folder in my Git, in this Git repository. For the production controller, look at the production folder. What I wanted to do but didn't have the time was to have two different repositories, one for staging, one for production. The staging controller is looking at the staging manifest, and the production controller is looking at the production manifest. And then the Git jobs just repeat itself. So instead of the staging as push the new version to staging, I would have a new stage with push the new, or step push the new version to production.
I want to add something.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you have to repeat it in your own words. But anyway, if you're using customize, you can say whatever you want. You can basically set it up the way that you're having a common config, a base configuration. This is what we are doing. And then you're only having the differences in different directories. And then you're pulling in the base configuration, and then you have dev, prod, whatever, what you need. This can then be combined with, for example, GitLab CI/CD, where you can say, okay, for this environment, use kubectl apply-k this directory. For another environment, this directory, etc. Or what you can do when you're using Argo CD, you can say that you're creating applications, and in these applications, you will then say, okay, this is the application with this environment, this is the application with this environment. It's really Argo CD applications. And the pattern that Argo CD is using here is called apps of apps. So there are multiple ways. From my perspective, you don't need to have necessarily two different repositories, because if you're using it, doing it with customers, you can just have one
desired version of your container.
Yeah. So, okay, Daniel
I can
just.
show it to you in a work project.
Okay, let me repeat it for chat. So Daniel just stated, okay, you could, for instance, with customize, you could have something like you have your base configuration and then you have different configurations for every stage, and you do your customize script then for this specific stage, and in your GitLab CI YAML, you define when this desired manifest changes that customize is creating, then roll it out into the necessary environment. So you don't have to have two different or several different repositories. Why I tried it was more the idea behind, okay, I want to encapsulate my production. So my production is my sacred grail, whatever. So I want to have this one separated from any staging environment. I would have done any dev environment, staging, stage UAT environment in one repository and the production in a different repository. But that's up to you, and technically wise, or from a technical point of view, it's just changing how your CI tool reacts to different changes.
And I think that's the most interesting part of this is protect production.
Yes.
This is the most interesting part. As long as you can ensure that production is protected from arbitrary changes that have never seen a test, then you can go.
Right. Yeah, then you just stated that the important part, production, or protect my production, we don't want to change anything of it. Configuration, runtime, and whatever. Any other points? All right, then thank you. Oh, Daniel.
No, 5 minutes break.
Yay. All right, then we have 5 minutes break? Yeah, okay. All right, thank you, and yeah, see you later.
Oh, welcome. Michael, maybe you can spin the whole camera a little bit because it's very off. Better. Top. Here we go. Second talk. It's me again. You have already seen me maybe in the beginning. For everybody who does not remember me, I'm Daniel, the other one. Daniel number 2, you might say. And today I'm also giving the second talk. And as many people already know, I'm a very huge fan and upstream contributor for Ansible. And therefore, this talk will be about Ansible for sure. As you may have already seen, if you're having a Kubernetes cluster, you can deploy stuff on it. Normally, in the very beginning, you are starting with a kubectl command. I hope this is big enough for everybody. Cool. And what you want to do is check if there are some pods running currently. If this is the case, you want to deploy something. And as you have seen in the last presentation from the other Daniel, this can be done with very complicated GitOps CI/CD mechanisms or with kubectl. So what most people are doing is kubectl apply -f and then pointing to a file. Yeah. If you're a little bit more sophisticated and you're having different environments, you can use customize or customize, and then you can use kubectl apply -k, point to your customization file, and it works the very same way. If you're using third-party applications, you can use Helm. Then you have to do Helm install something or Helm update something. And if you're having many Helm charts and a little bit of kubectl and whatnot, then you will finally come to Helm file. And then you're having Helm file with different charts, different values. So basically you're having a wrapper for a wrapper for a wrapper for a wrapper. And in the end, you just want to do JSON. But to do so, you have to learn a lot of languages. You have to learn how Helm works, how Go templating works. You have to know how the whole Kubernetes manifest environment works, etc., etc. On the other hand, you also want to configure your server. Maybe provide your Kubernetes environment in a cloud environment too. And in other Ansible-related topics, we already discussed, yes, you can create your own AWS EKS cluster, Enterprise Kubernetes Service, with Ansible. You can do the same for Azure Kubernetes Service. You can create it with Ansible. You don't need to learn Terraform for the same. You also can install Kubernetes on a bare Linux host with Ansible. Why not deploy your stuff with Ansible and use all the stuff that you already know for Kubernetes deployments? And therefore, I prepared a little bit. It's just very minimal. As you can see, we are having a playbook, an inventory, and then there is some templates. The playbook, let us have a look at the playbook first. The playbook is basically this, that's it. What we want to do is, we are saying our playbook is named deploy to Kubernetes. It runs on our local host because Ansible runs on our local host. We are not connecting to a remote SSH client or so. We are doing this locally. Therefore, we also don't need to gather facts. Why should we? We are not interested in the facts from the other side, and neither in our own. We already know that we're on a notebook or on another machine. And then this is only variables that we need later on. And then you need a single task. It's called Kubernetes Core K8s. And this single task expects us a lot of stuff. So we can provide either files, we can provide templates, we can provide in place, so basically our Kubernetes YAML if we want directly in the playbook. We also can cast it from somewhere else. We can pull it from the repository and then cast it. We can even point to a deployment YAML that is located on a remote repository without checking it out ever. And these templates are super easy because if you know how Kubernetes is working, you already know how these templates will look like. But please remember these variables for the same. Okay? Stay with me. Let's have a look at one of these templates. For example, the very complicated web deployment YAML. Very typical Kubernetes YAML file without syntax highlighting because it has a file ending Ginger 2. Anyway, we know it's YAML. Super simple. There's a specification for our deployment. We are just providing a selector. We are having here our first variable, web replicas. Meaning, if we are changing in our playbook the replicas, and we are executing our playbook, which then is using this template to deploy on Kubernetes, we will change the replicas. We can do the same for our limit memory and limit CPU. Basically, you can template everything that you already used from Ansible without installing anything on the Kubernetes host itself. This stuff runs only on my machine. There's nothing installed on Kubernetes. The only thing that I need is access to a Kubernetes API. Let's have a look at the other ones, which are way easier. There's an ingress, nothing fancy here, pretty dumb, simple ingress. And then we are having a service. And if you're very new to Kubernetes, to access a deployment, basically your application, which is running in a container, on Kubernetes, you need to first somehow connect to a reverse proxy. An ingress object is nothing more than a description how this reverse proxy should behave. So you're connecting to the reverse proxy. From there, you're hopping to the service. From there, you will be forwarded to the pods in your deployment. And that's already it. I have also created the namespace here, which makes it super easy, because now I have a proper namespace description. I can put limits regarding CPU and memory on it. I can limit taints. I can add labels, whatever I want in my production environment or development environment. And now, if you already know that kubectl apply something works, you may know that the Ansible playbook command is, oh, first I need to Ansible, sorry. The Ansible playbook works exactly the same way. What I need is Ansible playbook, then I can point to an inventory, which can be empty. I will come to this in a second. And then I need to execute my playbook. That's already it. I don't need to do anything else. Before doing so, let us validate. kubectl get pods, get namespace. So as you can see, there are currently 4 namespaces: default, kube node list, kube public, kube system. All of them should not be touched in general. You can publish stuff to default if you want, but should not be done. And now let's run our playbook, which will take just a second. In the background, it is now applying all the 4 manifests that we provided. It will create the namespace. It will create an ingress, a service, and a deployment. And hopefully, if you are running it again, we can see there's a new namespace called web. And we can also check out this namespace, -n web. There's a pod running, yay. But what if we want to scale? What if we want to scale now to maybe, let's say, 5? Normally, you now would go into your deployment YAML or in your Helm values YAML, change something there. If you're having Helm files, even weirder, you need to map variables through the whole Helm file situation. In Ansible, it's super easy. Go to the playbook, change from web replicas 1 to 5, save, and run it again. And now it will go a little bit faster, hopefully, because ingress and namespaces and stuff are already there, but nevertheless, spinning up 4 machines is taking some time. So why does it take so long, you may ask? In our first, let's check what's happened. There we go, 5. If I'm now entering 1, it will be scaled down to 1 again. Why is it took so long? And why is it not executed as fast as kubectl? Because with Ansible, you're getting the features that Helm is selling you as a benefit. You are getting control if the deployment was successful. Yeah? With only one simple entrance that you have already seen, in the very end, wait through. This waits until the deployment is done. And really, it's timing out at some point if it's not possible to deploy something. If it cannot reach the desired state, it will time out. Yeah. And this is how easy Ansible works. So no, let's have a look in the inventory. We had already a look in the last time. What I have done in my inventory is just providing a plugin, because maybe your Ansible playbook is super, super easy, like mine is, then you don't need this. But if there is something more complicated and you want to react to stuff that is happening on the Kubernetes side, yeah, only deploy this amount of containers if this is there. Yeah, basically the stuff that you can program in, for example, operators. If you've never heard of Kubernetes operators, it's basically a binary that you can deploy to your Kubernetes, which is then doing stuff like preparing machines, preparing deployments, and reaching all of these goals. But to do so, you need to know what is running on Kubernetes. And this Kubernetes plugin, this inventory plugin, can do exactly this for you. Which also means, yes, you can write operators completely in Ansible. You don't need to learn Go. You'd only need to know these Kubernetes core K8s stuff that we have already seen in my playbook, and this nifty little plugin. And then we can Ansible inventory -i inventory YAML -- list, and we can see there are our deployments without running a single kubectl command. We're getting all the information from the cluster, including all the stuff that was there beforehand, with lots of grouping, labeling, and whatnot. And now we can work with the stuff that is already on the Kubernetes deployed, and we can deploy new stuff there. And if we want, we can basically trash it by changing a single line. We just need to say absent, which will first destroy the namespace, meaning all the other three removals will fail. Or we can just scale to, again, only one. But this one should be vertically scaled to maybe 500 megabytes. Yes. And now run the playbook again. There we go. No fancy Helm needed, no Terraform needed, no nothing, only Ansible. Meaning, why is this important? So I think most of you are aware that I do a lot of Ansible. And why is it important that we are having one tool that can do this stuff for us? DevOps teams are normally very small, especially in a consulting situation, where you're basically the only engineer joining a team that does not have any idea of what's going on there. They want to do DevOps, but don't have any idea. If you are starting by, okay, let's first do infrastructure automation with Terraform. Second, we need to deploy this and that server to do something more. Third, you need to learn Helm because Helm is very important. Then, we started to come to the point where we also want to write our own Kubernetes manifest, now do this. And to configure your legacy Linux machines, you now need to know how Ansible works. Meaning, this very small 3-man team plus you now need to learn 5 different languages, 5 different tools, 5 different behaviors. Yes, Terraform is superior when it comes to infrastructure as code, because it can remove stuff, which is very hard for Ansible. But let's be honest. Who has ever just removed an S3 bucket in his Terraform and then plan apply, or has done it the other way around? First manually remove it, then remove it in Terraform and see if there is still a diff. Yeah, very few people are really using Terraform the way it is designed to be used. The same is for Helm. Most people are using Helm because it is already there. Yeah, because other companies are providing Helm to you. And fortunately, Kubernetes.core.k8s can consume Helm. So you can consume your Helm stuff, even if you don't want to use Helm itself. And now that's it. Questions, ideas, wishes, desires, things you want to see? If you want to create the namespace by providing a file, yeah, like I did with the namespace YAML, yes, you have to provide it as a file. This also applies to customize. If you want to use customize with create the namespace for me and maybe even inject it into other different files. By the way, Ansible can also consume customization files. Then you have to provide the namespace YAML there too at the very beginning, because otherwise you will get reports like this namespace does not exist. Yes, it's the same.
And the ordering, like the order Ansible consumes in the order you provide the templates.
Yes, the question was if Ansible consumes it in the order that is in the playbook. So yes, exactly like customization is doing it, which is barely visible currently because of the sun. You have to provide it in some order, and Ansible will consume it in this order. By the way, kubectl is also consuming it in an order, which is alphabetical order in the directory. Or the order that you are having it in your, if you're having all of these things together in one file, then it's the order how it is listed in the file. Yes? Yes, it is.
Creating namespace before anything else, but I don't know.
No, kubectl does not create namespaces.
But my question, can you provide just a path instead of a file? So kubectl,
yes.
You can also say, okay, kubectl-f dot.
Yes. You can also just provide the path to the template, to the template directory.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also apply only one file there. Yeah. For example, the namespace YAML, and in the second task you can consume all the rest. Yeah.
How do namespaces propagate in each template?
You mean
Yes.
how they are listed in, for example, the ingress? Or
Deployment, at least deployment has to be executed in namespace.
Yeah. What I'm always doing, but you can do this differently. What I am always doing is templates, deployment, web deployment. As I'm having this line here, line 6,
So
I'm putting in the namespace there.
explicitly defined.
You can explicitly define it, but you can also make it a variable for Ansible, or in customization you can say propagate this namespace. What you can also do is you can add common labels in Ansible, or in customization too, in both. You can just say, okay, add these labels always, which can be a namespace. Yeah. But since, for example, kubelinter, a Kubernetes linting tool, is really annoying when it comes to forgetting namespaces, forgetting resource limits or stuff like this, I have learned, okay, better put it in there and then you're good to go. Because then you cannot forget it. And let's be honest, searching in a project with even 20 files or so, and replacing a single string namespace web with namespace something else is pretty easy. Every IDE can do this. But yes, you have to, if you want to have it namespaced.
What is your opinion on combining this with automatic deployment with the GitLab?
So the question was, if I have an opinion about combining this with, for example, GitLab CI or other stuff, yes, I have an opinion. It works perfectly fine. It's super nice. Yeah. So every CI tool where you can execute Ansible, which is basically a Python environment, can use this stuff. Which is even more interesting if you're having AWX in your big environment or Ansible automation platform. Then it's even better, because then you can trigger these jobs in Ansible automation platform via an API. Meaning GitLab CI can now do stuff like, okay, do all the test deployment on your own, but deploying to production will be done by triggering AWX API and running the jobs that you want to have. Similar to Argo CD, but not reactive, but proactive. So it's a matter of how you want to structure your deployment environment? Should it react to changes in a repository, or do you want to trigger something out of your repository?